All right, let's go again. The first video was done on February the 3rd. We got the data on the budget February 3rd, and so I put together the first video on February the 5th. Today's February the 8th, and so we're still exploring the structural deficit, the financial shortfall that Dr. Giss has proclaimed that is driving this reorganization, this reallocation of resources for Title VI and for the Indian Education Department.
Like those Indians, I'm an Indian too. A Sioux.
So the first problem is we have 18 financial anomalies. If you want to know how much that is $154,842 that is unaccounted for between FY15. This is their reporting. I'm not doing it. I'm looking at the federal grant monies, the line items, and I'm looking at Tulsa's reporting to the public on the website. 18. The student data separates 506 JOM from other Indians. That is beyond ridiculous. That's ludicrous. A 506 JOM student is actually more Indian than anyone that just says checks I, because they are verified that they're Indian. So separating those two data points, I'm sorry, that's someone's doing something. And the third problem is the personnel costs do jump from 80 to 84%, but if there's a possible revenue increase from Cherokee Tag, where is the drama? Where's the structural deficit? So the financial shortfall and the structural deficit that Dr. Giss is claiming, it's just not there. Yakoki. What I was hoping for this week was that we'd end up with a really good Ophiodroma, a really good dog that would help us pull back the curtain on what's going on in Oz. That hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, with all of the purported transparency that the district is attempting to do, it's, in my opinion, it's creating more mud in the water for us to come to a sensible idea of why there's a structural deficit or why there's a financial shortfall. If you go to the Formula Grant Electronic Application System for Indian Education, or EASY, this is the grant that's from the United States Department of Education for Title VI. It's the form tells you how much funds you're going to receive, and you'll notice that this year, in the year 2015-16, our original allocation was at $655,000 for Title VI. We have seen decreases. I can explain those decreases in another video, as I promised. That's just going to take a lot of time. But if you go to the FY16 on the grant, you can pull out specific things. Like number one, we had a combined administrative cost. We had a coordinator and an administrative assistant. That ended up to $124,000 in that cost. The indirect costs, they cite on the form as 10.2%, which is $59,000. I was like, woo, I thought the administrative costs could only be limited to 5%, but they're charging, and that's a high indirect cost rate. Needless to say, you go down to what the resource advisors were making, you deal with their salary and fringe, and you come up with the total budget. Now, as you look at those specific elements, one of the things becomes very apparent, and that is the reporting mechanism that Tulsa just put out on the website, which is very interesting, by the way, because they had FY15 all the way through FY20 in an attempt to show some transparency. Apparently, someone saw that I was working these numbers because I had I had actually downloaded that from the parent committee site in the Indian Education. Now it's no longer there. You can download the district's version of FY18 through 20. So, anyways, they don't like me doing the numbers. What I was looking at was the budgeted amount versus the amount expended. And what becomes very clear is that the reporting in the grant versus the district's report that they put out has some financial anomalies. Let me just put it bluntly. The numbers don't match. They don't align for those fiscal years. So in the FY16 grant, there's 4 anomalies that I looked at. I didn't go line by line because, quite frankly, I was just what I'm interested in is the personnel cost, because they said that the structural deficit is due to the personnel costs, because the resource advisors, Dr. Giss said, because we got a raise. and that the state gave the raise, but that the funding comes out of the federal government, and therefore that raise has caused all this problem. Now, when I was originally projecting, I was like, were they going to increase the cost to by $80,000? I was wondering if that, I was trying to find, where is this at? Where are they coming up with these numbers? Because all we had at that time was the revelation of the budget and their paperwork that they were putting out online. So then we go into FY17, take a look at that from the EZ that's filed with the Department of Ed, and then their reporting on FY17, the district's reporting. And again, 3 different financial anomalies show up in between what was given to the feds and what the district is now reporting to all of us. FY18, take a look at that again, looked at Tulsa Public Schools reporting. And once again, there's 4 financial anomalies. One in the total, one in the combined administrative cost, one in the indirect cost, and one in the cost of the resource advisors. Go to FY19. Again, we see 4 different anomalies on the total, combined administrative costs, indirect costs, and the cost of the resource advisors. Then I saw that $77,000 jump in what they're reporting. And so I'm like, okay, so what they're reporting on is the actual amount expended after they had filed it, because we have those increased administration costs, those costs and personnel costs. However, the other thing that's going on here is that we're also seeing a significant jump in administrative costs, because remember, it was at 65. Actually, it was at 63 as it turns out when I was looking at it. It's at 63 and it's jumped all the way to 89 or 80. So the administrative hike of $25,000 is part of that cost. So if you spread that $77,000 increase that was in for the teachers, you spread that out among 7, and so then you get an idea of how much that the personnel costs were increased per individual. But the one party that saw the most significant hike in costs is that position of those administrative costs going from 63 to 89. So FY20, same thing. We haven't expended all the funds, so there's no real reporting on that. But already there's 3 anomalies, specifically in the grant total that they submitted to DC and what they're reporting. And their indirect cost doesn't look like what they put in for. They put in for a 5% indirect cost of $33,954, but the district's reporting that they're going to collect $41,233. I don't understand any of this. I'll just be honest with you. When the numbers don't match, I get suspicious. So now there's a great book that I had to read in my doctoral classes. One of it's called Reading Educational Research: How to Avoid Getting Statistically Snookered. It was a great book. I love that class. We're just dealing with how you can miscommunicate statistics, and how those statistics, even though people rely on statistics and data to gather information, sometimes the data is just it's not truthful. It doesn't reveal anything. So who is Indian Education? Well, on January 21st, they reported that we had 3,094 students in Title VI. Then in January 29th, when they come back, they say there's 3,076. So somewhere in between there, 20-something kids just went away. Don't know why. I'm not even going to question their numbers yet. But then they go in to present on the 29th some startling statistics. They start talking about percent of chronically absent students. And this takes me back to an old fight with the district a long time ago. And that is, on January 21, they're reporting that there's 3094, January 3076. That means if you go with on the Native American column that they have right there in the middle, that's blue, if you go that at 35%, then that means 1,082 students are chronically absent versus the January 29th number, which is 1,076 students that are chronically absent. So you have 2 different numbers. Automatically, you have 2 different numbers. So what numbers are they using to derive this data from? If you go by the other column they have, which is 506 JOM, which they don't call Native American, which is quite hysterical, actually. January 21st, they show 990 students that are chronically absent versus 984. My point being is that they are comparing Native American and 506 JOM. and they're reporting two different statistics for that group. In other words, what they're reporting is, if one's 35%, which is the blue column, which is the Native American column that they created, versus the 32% based on 506 JOM, which they don't call Native American, but those are actually that's where we get our funding from. Why are there two different columns for Indians? And it's because we've tried explaining this to the district. They don't understand that it's not just an ethnic issue, it's a political issue. Specifically, the tribes have been here for 10,000 years. Our sovereignty pre-exceeds that of the states and the United States. Long story short, percent of unique student suspensions, proficient, and those that met growth don't mean anything. So last year, I actually gave a data example to Deidre Previtt, saying we have a data problem in Tulsa Public Schools, and I went through because they had reported that 27% of Native American students are absent 10% more of the time. Hello, Toe again. Had some disruption there. At any rate, I filed with Deidre Previtt on the data reporting issue that we were having with the Tulsa World, specifically the students they cited. Now, the problem is that at the time we had 3,182 students that were inside Title VI, and they're reporting on 624. And so 27%, I mean, you can do the math yourself. I'm not going to force you to do the math. They're reporting on 20% of the total population. The reason being is because we have Power School. So the magic formula you use is race equals I, American Indian or Alaska Native. You put that into Power School, and then it generates you a specific report. And that's the software that is used in the district for collecting data, specifically grades, attendance, all the important stuff. So you use that magic formula, and you plug that in, and then you'll notice that on one of the pages that I show the magic formula plus the additional flags we have to use, because sometimes parents will check white, but they won't check Indian, yet they have a 506 or they have their card. I could go into detail on why that happens. It just does, and you can just look at the flags we have to use, like Native American Cherokee roll number, Native American comments, Native American Muskogee, Native American JOM flag. There's just a number of factors that go into that software. So once you do a quick export, you get information like the name of the students, their demographic issues, grade level, gender, date of birth, where they live, what period they're in, what class, what teacher they have. And so eventually you will come up with a list. And so on this one, I just took a smaller school, and I can't tell you which one. But at any rate, I blocked out anything so that way we're avoiding FERPA. What I want to show you is that it shows 15 enrolled Chaban and Hochties, Istijati. And then I column that shows 12 non-enrolled that may be Istijati. That means their parent checked the I box, but we have no confirmation or any kind of paperwork to declare that they are Native American. Well, as a result of that, you end up with so the total shows 65% enrolled, 45% non-enrolled. And so we're always trying to gather 506s from that 45% that are non-enrolled. You have the 506 form that you send out, and now we come to another problem. When they did their report with Tulsa Public Schools to Tulsa World, they used another software, another one of their programs that's called Dashboard. All right? You plug that in, and all of a sudden you start dealing with the same numbers, but you end up with some really, really different data points. And so the maybe Istijatis, problem one, it only reports that we had 12 students at this school. And but the second problem is only 8 of those are actually enrolled. So they're reporting from Dashboard on students so if 25% of the data is incorrect, you can't count self-identified people unless you have that political documentation that shows, yes, they are a member of this tribe. And only tribes can determine that. It's a sovereignty issue. So having the potential tribal enrollment is not the same as verified tribal enrollment. And so I have here from, by the way, this is from WikiLeaks. So it is not WikiLeaks, Wikipedia, whatever it is. It shows this guy's CDIB card. Well, that is a verification of tribal enrollment. That is what we are looking for. We need a 506 or we need those. You know this, most of you know this. All right. This goes back to Article 6 of the Constitution, which says all treaties shall be the supreme law of the land. That means those are treaties, tribal treaties, exceed the authority. I'm sorry, Dr. Giss, Dr. Grisso, our treaties exceed your authority, okay? Because it's on par with the Constitution. It says it's be supreme law of the land. So here's the problem. Power School shows 15 enrolled, shows 12 non-enrolled. So if we just go through schools and we start looking at a comparison between dashboard data and Power School, you end up with a 12.5% discrepancy at dual language, 28% at Eisenhower, 25% at Grimes, 17% discrepancy, 18% at Kendall Whittier, 15% at Kerr. We don't know what the percentage at MacArthur because I'm still trying to analyze that. 26% discrepancy at Mayo, 53% discrepancy at Sequoia. That means that's how many parents checked I, but we only have X amount of data on them. 29% discrepancy is 0. What that means is the range is from 12.5% to 53% of the data that cannot be relied upon. But yet they're reporting that the attendance problem for Indians is greater than any other class. Meanwhile, they're separating Native American from 506 JOM. It's just a huge discrepancy. So now we're going back to the budget. And I've had some time to look at this. I was trying to find where this structural deficit is. And so in 1920, they cite $920,000 as what the total expenditures are projected to be because we haven't completed this cycle yet. But as it turns out, when we get the budgets, it shows $913,000 that was budgeted. At 70% that they say is the total salaries, that would be $644,429. That's why I was thrown off because I'm trying to find it inside the budget. But when you go back and actually look at the grant, the $731,936 that is inside the personnel costs actually puts personnel costs at 80%. So you can't even rely on the slides that they give you. I mean, this is documentation that was presented to the chiefs, to the representative from the Cherokee Nation, and it's wildly off. 10% off is a significant deviation. You're talking about dollars now. So $100,000 is significant. So now they're proposing in the 2021 budget that they're going to increase the salaries back up to $69,000. So the total budget's $869,680. So you do look at that. That means that they're projecting $600,000 in total salaries. That's a $131,000 cut out of salaries. Well, but the deficit between the original 913 and the 869 is $43,000. That's the change in the. So why is there a $131,000 change in those costs if the actual cost is only $43,000? Long story short, if you look at it, the personnel cost is only going to go from 80% to 84%, which is well within the control. Instead of $181,000 to budget left over, you end up with $137,000 to budget left over, which means there is no, even with trying to use their distorted math, there's no, I can't find the financial deficit. I can't find the structural deficit as they define it. The Grissoislying1a tag, Dr. Giss said there was no personnel costs coming from it, but yet when we got this on Monday, it shows directly that there's $84,000 in personnel costs coming out of the Cherokee tag. But she reported to the district on TV, and I can't wait to find it. I've been looking at it takes a long time it's 4 hours of recording. The Cherokee tag, because our JLM count is going up because of the Cherokee Nation's willingness to look through our students. The Cherokees, and this is on behalf of the Cherokee Nation, not us, not Tulsa Public Schools. So our Cherokee tag is probably going to go up. Well, you start dealing with the fact that Title VI is going to be at $615,000 because they're reporting 3,076 kids. Well, that means our budget is decreasing about $15,000 from the $633 to $615. We went from a combined administrative cost of $124,000 to a single administrative cost of $115,000, and we dumped the $84,000 that would have been internally inside of Title VI over onto Cherokee tag.